call this meeting of the South Redford Board of Education together at 6:30. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Winston.
Anthony Johnson.
Present.
Amanda Fletcher.
Present.
Misha Early.
Present.
Cheryl Fletcher.
Present.
Daniel Winston. Present. We have Lori Hicks, who's absent. And then we have Shirley Tolliver.
Present. Next item on the agenda is the approval of agenda. We will be taking item 20 off of the agenda. Next item, okay, yes. Next item on the agenda is Superintendent Communications, Mr. Bob.
Thank you, Madam President. We have officially entered our busiest season and summer for the bond work, where there is significant bond improvements taking place at 4 of our 7 buildings this summer. And I really just want to highlight the Herculean efforts of the staffs from those 4 buildings, who, in conjunction with it being a half day for students, our staff at those 4 particular buildings also had to be out by the end of the day so that we can turn the buildings over to the bond teams as quickly as we possibly could. Where every day with the bond renovations and improvement matter tremendously. And so again, just want to recognize the Herculean efforts of our entire staff at those 4 particular buildings as we enter the busiest season of the bond work. So super excited about what's taking place. I know it wasn't all that long ago where our partners from Barton Malow and TMP shared an update with the board. And so if you recall that, we're now in that season officially. So hats off to the staff at those 4 locations for their efforts in making that possible. Additionally, I would like to congratulate the coordinated efforts for our end of the year celebration that was led by Kyla Page, Elizabeth Duperrin, Mr. Bill Dyer in the SREA, as well as Assistant Superintendent Mr. James Kinsey, who after quite a bit of conversations, the team came together and was able to coordinate a very successful end of the year celebration right here at Stefan's, located within the South Redford School District, just down the street from Jefferson Elementary School. And it was a phenomenal end of the year celebration where we were able to come together to just enjoy the company and relive some of the positive highlights from the school year, and wish everyone that was able to be there a wonderful summer. And that concludes my communications this evening, Madam President.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the board communication. Are there any?
To the chair.
Yes?
I have a letter I'd like to read, please.
Okay.
After 21 years of service on the board, I am tired of walking on eggshells. The climate of this board has changed over the last couple of years, and not for the better. One has to ask themselves why. The board was recently given a prestigious award through MASB called the Honor Board Award. Under normal circumstances, the award would be something to celebrate, as the definition of honor means to have honesty, fairness, or integrity in one's beliefs and actions. Unfortunately, the current beliefs and actions of this board are far from living up to that definition. Board members are elected by the community to do a specific job as legally empowered by the state and federal government. The key components of our job include overseeing the superintendent, policy, finances, and student academic achievement. The board is failing on all levels. We have board members that do not even bother to complete the superintendent's evaluation. We have board members that say they're against policy and procedure. We have board members that are most focused on renting district facilities to outside organizations than they are on our students' safety, academic success, and preparing them for their futures. This board has reached an all-time low by neglecting to accomplish the jobs they are legally required to do. Some board committees complete their assignments with due diligence, Yet their dedication and hard work is continuously disrespected and discounted by other board members. Meanwhile, other committees do the bare minimum and drag out their assignments for months or even years at a time. There is blatant favoritism when it comes to which board member questions, concerns, or committee reports make it onto the actual board agenda. Certain board members' personal desires get treated as priority over actual board work and the needs of the district. Certain board members have even been allowed to bully and threaten right at the board table. And if it has continued to happen over and over with no accountability or consequence. These same board members also utilize their positions and titles to intimidate and bulldoze district employees till they get what they want. At the same time, our board fails to set a good example for the rest of the district by refusing to follow the policies and procedures which we have set for ourselves. It's embarrassing that this district and board prides itself so much on personal development, when time and time again, our board has publicly shown disregard and lack of comprehension when it comes to basic governance procedures and Robert's Rules of Order. Why should the district continue to spend money on board and professional development when the knowledge is not being utilized or retained? Communication between the board as a whole is virtually non-existent, including communication with the board president and superintendent. All board members are supposed to be privy to the same information in an equal manner. Additionally, the information when relayed is supposed to be accurate and timely. A phrase of late that has become too often used is the will of the board. But how can that be the will of the board when not all voices are being listened to or respected? Meanwhile, the quorum of the board is making hasty decisions based on little to no accurate information. The board just recently received a long email with documentation and data about the concerns of many of our staff in the district. I personally would like to know what this board's intention is in regards to addressing the issue contained within that correspondence. This board has a habit of not responding to or simply ignoring matters of contention under the belief that it will be taken care of by the superintendent or the board president. But there's no follow-up after that. I will close by saying some members of the board are more focused on using the board members' positions and titles for personal gain rather than focusing what our actual job is that we were elected to do by the community. Until this is done, we should not refer to ourselves as an honor board, and the district will continue to spiral downwards because transparency, accountability, and change starts from the top. We are a stronger and better district when we learn how to work together. United we stand, divided we'll fall. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, are there any other board communications?
Judge Chair,
Yes.
it's more for the north end of Redford, but I did see a post come through the other day from Redford Interfaith Relief. They are looking for specifically summer clothes for kids, not babies. So they're looking for donations of summer clothes for young kids.
Nothing.
Not nice, but there's a post on their social media for more information.
For students, more or less.
Kids, yep.
Like
Students or kids from the community, possibly toddlers. I didn't memorize the post, but yeah, Redford Interfaith Relief is looking for donations.
All right, thank you. Are there any, next item on the agenda, are there any comments from the audience? None, there are none. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Do I have a board member willing to adopt the consent agenda?
Madam President,
Yes.
I move the adoption of our resolutions.
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Early, supported by Mr. Johnson. All in favor?
Aye.
6 ayes, any nays, 0 nays, resolution adopted. Next item on the agenda is consider preliminary budget for the 25-2026 school year. Public hearing, consider it resolution. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Madam President. At our previous board meeting, our finance director presented the budgetary pieces pertaining to FY '25 as well as for the upcoming year, FY '26. And so I know the board is required to have its public hearing this evening. And if there's any additional remarks from the board or from the audience this evening pertaining to the public hearing portion. And then there is also a resolution attached based on the presentation from our most recent Board of Education meeting for board consideration, Madam President.
Do I have are there any questions, first of all?
To the chair,
Yes.
can I get a reminder on when's the next time we look at the budget after this? Is it in January?
So what we would like to do this year is actually have something prior to the dismissal at the holiday season in December.
Okay. Okay, that's it.
Do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution?
Madam President,
Yes.
I move the adoption, move the adoption of the following resolution. No.
Can I open the public hearing first?
Oh,
Sorry.
Did he say?
Got open the public hearing. So Bill hasn't been-
Oh, okay. Public hearing, okay. A public hearing is now open at
6:41.
6:41 PM. For the purpose of hearing the public on the adoption of the operating budget of the South Redford School District for the fiscal year 2025-2026, and the proposed tax millage rate to be levied to support the adopted 2025-2026 school year budget. All interested parties will be heard and all aspects of this matter are open for discussion. If there are people who wish to comment, we appreciate you taking the time to present your options. Please step up to the podium, state your name for the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. There are none. Since there are none, no further comments to be heard, the public hearing is now closed at,
6:42. That's good.
all right. Now, thank you. Do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution?
Madam President, I
Yes.
move the adoption of the following resolution.
It's been moved by Mrs. Early and supported by Mr. Johnson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? 0 nays? Resolution adopted. Next item on the agenda, establish 2025 tax levy. Mr. Bond.
Thank you, Madam President. Additionally, one of the pieces that the board has to visit annually is the school tax levy, which was also presented from our finance director at the previous Board of Education meeting. And so in your board packet, Madam President, as well as fellow board members, attached is the 2026 tax rate request, and there is a resolution attached for board consideration.
Do I have a board member willing to adopt the tax levy?
To the chair,
Yes.
I'd like to move the adoption of the following resolution.
It's been moved by Mrs. Fletcher, supported by Mr. Johnson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays, 0 nays, 6 ayes. Resolution adopted. Next item on the agenda, discuss and consider state aid note for cash flow borrowing.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Finance, Mickey Bory, to talk with the board this evening about the discuss and consider for state aid note cash flow borrowing.
So, as the, excuse me, as the board is aware, last year, we had a state aid note. We are looking to do the same this year. The reason for doing the state aid note is to make sure that during that month of October, when we are not receiving state aid, that we are able to cover our salaries or wages for our employees. So we are looking to, again, borrow with the state aid note in order to make sure that we're able to cover those expenses. We do not want that to exceed $2 million. We are working through, I am working through that process as we speak. Does anybody have any questions?
You said not to exceed 2 million?
Not to exceed. Yes. And you will see that in the board packet. They have their format as well as we have our format, so you will see both of those in the board packet this evening. But it does say that we will not exceed with Millard Canfield. They have their format in here. That once the cash flow is provided, they will do all of their, all of the paperwork and put it within the pool for us to get the best rates.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this might be a silly question, but what's the difference between a state aid note and a bond? Like, what is the difference between that? Like when we have bonds that people buy to cover expenses.
I'm trying to think of what would be the best words in
So,
that.
if I may,
Yeah, go. Right.
in our environment, bonds are usually for capital improvements. You know, when we think about the industry of education, whereas state aid note is like a line of credit because it has to cover our lowest point to compensate our staff before we begin to receive state aid from Lansing. So we don't receive our first state aid payment until October, and meanwhile, we bring staff back to work starting in August. So it's to cover payroll for staff while we're awaiting our first state aid payment from Lansing. Or for bond in the educational environment, it's usually for capital improvement renovations. So
So it's kind
projects,
of like a loan.
projects or people. Yep, yep, like a line of credit, yep.
Thank you, Jason.
Now, follow-up question though, does that loan have interest on it or no?
It does.
Yes.
It does? I didn't see that in here, but.
And that is why we choose to pool, is because of the better rates. Because we could go through our bank, but we're not going to receive as good a rate as if we go within the pool.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution?
To the chair,
Yes.
I'd like to move the adoption of the following resolution, please.
It's been moved by Mrs. Fletcher. Do I have a support?
Support.
Support by Mr. Winston. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? zero nays. 6 ayes, 0 nays, resolution adopted. Next item on the agenda, discuss and consider custodial maintenance and ground service contract extension. Mr. Rob.
Thank you, Madam President. The district currently contracts with ABM to provide district-wide custodial maintenance and ground services throughout the district. The contract approved by the Board of Education on May 22nd, 2023, covered the period of July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024, with an option of up to 3 one-year extensions. The Board of Education resolved to extend the contract by 1 year on April 8th, 2024. During this period, ABM has provided custodial maintenance and ground services to the expectations outlined in the contract. We are pleased overall with the services provided and have identified areas for improvement, and therefore, it's our recommendation that it's appropriate to extend the contract for an additional 2 years. We have negotiated the terms of the proposed extension that are favorable to the district. Based on the terms of the extension and ABM's overall performance during the past 3 years, it is my recommendation that this contract be extended for a 2-year period with a 2-year period covering July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2027. Madam President, a resolution is attached for board consideration.
Mr. Winston.
Jason, we spoke on some things to do with ABA. I don't know the landscape of custodial services around the country and expectations and what it is. I like the people because I've spoken to them on numerous occasions. The work sometimes, as I've spoken to you about, is sometimes but I know when I have talked to the supervisors, they say they were going to address it. You're confident that given them 2 years, things will improve?
Yes. And we have some processes in place for some of what you're referring to. And it's going to continue to be progress monitored ongoingly so that we don't experience a lapse in the services.
I think the staff is great, like people, but just the work. I'm just concerned to make sure they're doing the job that we're contracted them to do at a level that our expectations are being met. So, okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
To the chair,
Yes?
I'm a little confused. Because it was options of 3 one-year extensions and you're asking for a 2-year extension. So is that like a completely new negotiated contract?
No, it's an extension.
How can you extend
So-
something for 2 years if it was only 1 year?
Yeah, it's a contract extension. So we had 2 members of the Board of Education that served on the facility review committee when it came to custodial maintenance and grounds. And so the recommendation of that committee that 2 board members sat on was to make a recommendation for an extension of their current contract. So the scope, the staffing, insurance, all those components stay the same. So rather than continue to do 1-year renewals, it was the recommendation from that committee for custodial maintenance and grounds is to consolidate it into 1 2-year extension instead of 2 1-year extensions, because overall, we're pleased with the services.
And we can do that legally?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution?
To the chair,
Yes?
I move the adoption of the following resolution.
Do I have a support?
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Fletcher and supported by Mr. Winston. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays, 0 nays, 6 ayes and 0 nays, resolution adopted. Next item on the agenda is discuss and consider employment contract for Assistant Superintendent of Operations and Human Resources. Mr. Bond.
Thank you, Madam President. It is my recommendation to the Board of Education that we look to offer a new contract to our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources and Operations for Mr. James Kinsey. And the contract would be effective July 1st, 2025 through June 30th of 2028. And Madam President, there is a resolution attached for board consideration.
Do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move the resolution be adopted.
It's been moved by Mr. Johnson. Do I have a support? Supported by Mrs. Early. All in favor? Aye. Any nays? 0 nays. 6 ayes, 0 nays. Resolution adopted. Next item on the agenda is discuss and consider employment contract for Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment. Mr. Bond.
Thank you, Madam President. It is also my recommendation to the Board of Education that we offer a new contract for our Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Director, Ms. Amy Davidson, for the time frame of July 1st, 2025 through June 30th of 2028. And Madam President, there is a resolution attached for board consideration.
Are there any questions?
To the chair, if there's a typo, it says July 23rd, 2025 on this page instead of June. I don't know if that will affect anything. I just saw that just now.
July 1st?
No, it says July 23rd instead of June 23rd for today for this resolution.
Oh, okay.
It's on the other page.
You got it?
That piece gets stripped off, so it won't affect anything.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
The chair?
Yeah,
I just have a question for Jason or Mickey. Since Amy's at the top, will we treat her contracts moving forward like we do teachers and other, what we've discussed? Because it's not reflected in this.
Yes, we will.
So each year it'll go up some.
Not necessarily. At minimum, it would be the amounts that the board has in its packet tonight, but it may possibly go up. And if that be the case, then that would be the minimum amount. It would not be lower than that. And in the event that we're able to do something greater in years 2 and 3, then I would look to bring something back before the Board of Education.
There's a second page we have, maybe I'm just not seeing it. But I don't see what Jason is saying in this contract, that's why I'm asking. They're the same. Does it reflect
And
that?
it changed.
But it does not say that in the language that we're approving.
Correct. The board is only approving those amounts that are on this page.
So you would be bringing back the contract for renewal if things were to change?
Correct.
Okay.
And this is comparable to what we're offering all other
All right.
staff that are at the top across the entire district at this point in time.
Okay, but right now, this is what we're voting on?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. Madam President, there's a resolution attached for board consideration.
Do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution?
Madam Chair, I move the resolution be adopted, please.
It's been adopted by Mr. Johnson. Do I have a support?
Support.
It's been supported by Mrs. Early. All in favor?
Aye.
0 nays. Resolution adopted 6-0.
For the safety and security of the district students to prolong the longevity of the competitive track and field, and out of the need to update the district's outdated policies. At the board meeting on June 24th, 2024, the board resolved to allow the Redbird Eagles, a third party, with 1 season one-season waiver to rent the Thurston High School competitive football field. The Redford Eagles Rangers Elite are requesting a one-season waiver to rent the Thurston High School competitive football field for the upcoming football season. Given the previously honored agreement with the Redford Eagles Rangers Elite, it is my recommendation to the board to allow the Redford Eagles Rangers Elite, a third party, a one-season waiver to continue to rent the Thurston High School competitive football field using the previously established rates by the Board of Education while still maintaining the safety and security of the district's students and prolonging the longevity of the Thurston High School competitive field. Madam President, a resolution is attached for board consideration.
Do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution?
Madam President,
Yes.
move the adoption of the resolution.
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Early, supported by Mr. Winston. All in favor? Aye. 0 nays?
No,
No. Oh,
there's 2 nays.
oh, I'm sorry, okay. Okay, 4 ayes, 2 nays.
President,
Yeah,
can you say any nays? Because you didn't say any nays.
didn't say any, are there any nays? 2.
Nay.
Okay.
Thank you.
4 ayes, 2 nays, resolution adopted. Next item on the agenda. Discuss winner of the Thurston High School's competitive track and field.
Thank you, Madam President. At the board meeting on November 28, 2022, the board resolved to not allow third-party rentals of the Thurston High School's competitive track and field. The board this evening is discussing reinstating third-party rentals of the Thurston High School competitive track and field, and either grandfathering track and field rates from the rate structures from the board prior to 2022, or establishing new rates based on the board presentation from November 14th, 2022, where all district facility rentals were discussed by the Board of Education. New facility rental fees were adopted on November 28th, 2022, with the exception of the Thurston High School competitive track and field. Madam President, this is a discuss item this evening for the Board of Education.
This is a discussion.
Says Chair.
Yes?
I'm not even sure how to even have a discussion without all the information that we need to have a discussion. So I don't even know where to start, because I don't feel like we have all the information we need to make a decision.
We're not making a decision, this is just a discussion.
Yeah, but for next time, we usually do a discuss and then we do a consider. I don't even know how to do this part, because I don't have all the information that I asked for. So I can't say yes or no either way, because I don't have the information.
We're discussing it now.
Without the information,
Yes.
so.
Yes.
So how can we make an informed decision without having information that we asked for, though?
Madam President, if I may, for tonight's board packet,
Okay.
for tonight's board packet, inclusive of the packet for this evening, the information from 2022, 2023 is in each board member's packet for tonight's discuss, inclusive of the previously mentioned outdated rates that were passed by the board, coupled with the facility committee's wonderful comprehensive work that they did back from 2022. So there's a fair amount of information that is available for the board to reference for tonight's discussion. However, if there's additional information that's requested from the board beyond what's in the board's packet this evening, I would certainly be glad to pass that along to the board prior to the next meeting, if there's something additional that's not included in tonight's packet.
To the chair,
All right. Yes.
what is needed? Like specifically, what are you looking for?
Well, these are just the rates from 2022. It was also mentioned seeing if the rates need to be updated. These are rates, I don't even know if these are from 2022 because we didn't touch them. So the rates previous to that were like 13 years old. So now we're looking at 3 years old. So that's 16 years old for these rates. And I asked prior to this board meeting why that part wasn't included in this packet, because it was mentioned by a board member at our last meeting that potentially we would have to see if the prices have gone up since the facility met. So I don't feel comfortable discussing and deciding on something when we're being scrutinized right now for our budget and being fiscally responsible if we haven't even done our due diligence to look at what things cost right now. Otherwise, we're gonna open it up for rentals possibly, and we don't know if there's even gonna be any revenue in that, because you're talking about old rates.
But it says right here, we either do the ones from before or establish new ones, right?
Nope, it says based on the 2022 ones,
Which are old.
which are now 3 years old.
Okay,
So prior to any tariffs or anything with this new president and inflation. So we're rushing into this discussion without having all the information, not to mention the policies were still outdated. Our committee never touched the policies. So I don't even know how you can have a rental packet for outside organizations for the football and track field when the facilities committee never even finished that work for the rules and stuff, let alone having them posted by the field.
To the chair.
Yes.
I too requested information. Chris was on vacation. Jason said he would talk to Chris about gathering information. I feel that the whole board needs to know to make a decision. I myself feel very uncomfortable discussing when we don't have all the information in front of us and don't understand the rush. A waiver was given. All of a sudden, this is on our agenda. It's rush, rush, rush. I don't think we're being fiscally responsible, and I requested information, and I think I have the right to request it, and I want the whole board to get it, and I'm not going to make a decision without all the information. And Amanda's right, there is a policy that is connected.
for everybody. And I think that if we just finish this last little piece and not let it linger, we can get back to doing what we need to be doing. This always was supposed to be into operations hands, not ours.
When it was finished, but it was never allowed to
Okay,
be
but
finished.
we're bringing it up so we can be finished. That's what I'm saying.
But we can't finish it because you guys dissolved the committee. So
This is
now
a
we have to
discussion,
wait
we're not
for
considering.
operations to
Okay.
do all the research
And
and
that's
then bring back the data for
fine.
us.
But
So that's where
again,
the time frame comes from.
And it's just an estimate,
Tomatoes,
it's just my
tomatoes.
opinion. If you think it can be done to 2 weeks, maybe
And
Jason
I
and Chris and
respect
his
your
team can do it.
opinion. I do. I respect
You
everybody's
know,
opinion.
I'm just saying we need to collect the data. There's no reason to rush it, do it right.
My opinion is, why don't we just move it all to operations and let them figure it out? Since they're the ones been doing it forever.
You said that last time, and I believe you were told that the board has to establish the rental rates. So they can't just have all of it. It would still need to be brought back to the board to vote on.
That's what I just said, let it go back to operations. He'll
then
figure
bring it back.
it out, just like he did it earlier in this forum. He recommended something and we voted on it. based on his recommendation. It can just be that simple.
If he brings back the data, I have no problem with that. Everything I've asked for, if he brings it back where I can make an informed decision, I don't have a problem at all. And we've said all along, we've requested information through his office. I have not gotten it
What
personally.
information though? Like,
That's what I asked last time. What information would you be looking for? 'Cause
I
if we
literally
base-
just
if we-
answered that question like 5 minutes ago.
If we're basing things on what other cities are doing, that might not mesh with what we have to do for our children and our residents here in our city. Because what one city can do, we can't. Some things we can do, they can't do. That's
But
why,
how do we know until we collect the data?
that's what you said.
That is all I'm
You
asking.
keep saying we.
Collect the data, bring it back so I can
Who's
make
gonna
an
collect
informed
the data?
decision.
So we can make a
Who's gonna collect the data?
Exactly.
Yes.
You
not
just
I,
said,
we.
Who's
the
gonna collect the data?
superintendent.
No, you keep saying we. Who is we?
Well, we're
said
all a
I.
team, so
No.
I don't understand.
That's why I said, so we can make a decision.
But I don't,
That's what.
It doesn't
Everybody
sit
keeps,
well.
everybody keeps saying the decision and decide. This is not what we're doing.
we're discussing.
We're bringing everybody's
But it
opinion.
doesn't
Everybody's
sit well
opinions are
that we
all
can't
over.
even get through the discussion.
So, Madam President?
Yes.
If I may, if it's the will of the board to go with the comprehensive work that the District Facilities Committee did approximately 3 years ago, that's certainly at the will of the board. If it's also the will of the board to have me go back to the Wayne County listserv to collect updated information that may have occurred in the past 3 years and bring that back to the board, I am willing to do that. But I do need some direction from the Board of Education if the board wants to go with the rates that were assembled by the Facilities Committee, or if the board would like the most updated rates across Wayne County, as of 2025. I would be willing to do that. Another possible suggestion for the board to consider during tonight's discussion is to set a sunset clause where the Board of Education, approximately every 3 to 5 years, would put a listserv out to surrounding communities in Wayne County to see how the rates may evolve for the reasons that several board members have mentioned tonight, and to do that every 3 to 5 years. We could do that as well. But I do request, it certainly doesn't have to be tonight, but some direction from the board, as to whether or not the board would like to function based on the comprehensive work that the Facilities Committee did 3 years ago, or if the board would like updated information to 2025.
To the chair.
Yes.
I agree on two things. I think we, since we did do the current rate structure 3 years ago, but did not do the athletic, track and field, I think that we should at least look at the track and field stuff, like you do a listserv, like you said, and look at that. All the other stuff is done. And then, like you said again, in between that 3 and 5 years, we can look at it all again together.
Mhm.
You like the whole packet
Mhm.
and go from there.
What's the will of the board?
You also, one other thing, real quick. You also have to look at the dynamics of where you're getting your certain data
Mhm.
from. Because, say, for instance, PAL, they get a
Mhm.
large portion of their money from the Detroit Lions.
Right.
They go play in Ford Field for championships, and they don't charge.
For free.
They
That's
don't
right.
charge those kids to come to
Mhm.
that field for using their facilities. That's donated. And they get
That's right.
discounts on equipment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A large group of people get monies through that way, so therefore, you have to understand, when you got a unit that's close-knit and close in proximity of where we're at, doesn't get those benefits. So if you want to collect real data, that's where you have to look at the amount of money that goes in. So if we was to rent Ford Field to play our championships, how much you think that would cost? Because I used to coach in PAL when we were the first team that played in the championship when the Ford Field opened. So I know for a fact we don't pay to go play at that field.
I would also like to take a deeper look at, not just surrounding districts, but districts that are just like us.
Mhm.
Same amount of schools, same amount of people, same amount of community members, and all of those, and compare that. I don't wanna look at Livonia, because Livonia is bigger than we are.
Mhm.
You know, so their pay structure is totally different than what we are.
Mhm.
You know, something compatible with us.
So the chair, I don't disagree with Misha at all. I think we need to collect that data. But we also need to look at the type of field too. So it's apples to apples. You're looking at the size of the district and the kids, you look at the type of field they have. Some
I
only
said
have
that
the wheat.
to
So
say
I
that.
agree with her.
There
I
are very
think
few that
we
don't have
need
new fields.
all the data before you can make
So-
a decision, and however long it takes to do it the right way.
The ones comparable to us, most of them.
But I have asked for all that information going on record, and I'm sorry, I didn't get it. Other people have asked for it, and it really bothers me, the will of the board, because I have a voice and a right for that information too. And to be ignored by my superintendent or even by my board president when I ask for things